confirming that we can see a little bit of that slowdown.
After a nearly 7-month-long flight.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars.
Relief and revelry. Perseverance guiding itself down to the surface of the red planet. The landing, a start of a new era of Martian exploration. An ambitious mission packed with a little moxie and ingenuity.
We're taking CO2 on Mars and we're turning it into oxygen.
That could help answer one big question.
And so exciting to see whether we might really finally be able to answer the question of was there life on Mars?
The 10 on NECN starts now.
Touchdown confirmed. Perseverance safely on the surface of Mars, ready to begin seeking the sands of past life.
Big high fives and socially distant fist bumps there. This is the day NASA and space enthusiasts around the world have been waiting for. 33 weeks of waiting, in fact. And just hours ago, NASA landed its latest and greatest unmanned rover on the planet of Mars. And already, it has sent back its first couple images. A postcard from Mars. Wish you were here. Love, Percy. This is NASA's fourth rover, named Perseverance, Percy for short. It is bigger and much more sophisticated than any previous rover. It's taken Rover 7 months to get to Mars, and now NASA promising a view of the red planet like we have never seen before. But what's this really all about? Of course, it's more than just those Instagram-friendly scenery pictures. Ultimately, this mission is to look for signs of life on Mars, and that's our starting point tonight. It is the centuries-old question, right? Was or is there another form of life somewhere out there in the universe, specifically Mars? That's why we hear Martians all the time, right? Today, NASA took one giant leap forward to help answer that question with the successful landing of Perseverance. But this wasn't an easy trip by any means. On a space mission, really timing is everything. Meticulous planning went into this mission too, because you really want the planets to be relatively close to each other. And Earth only laps Mars once every 2 years or so, so that window is small. And you're aiming for a moving target from an even faster moving planet. So it's got to travel that distance, 309 million miles to reach Mars. And in the grand scheme of things, that's kind of the easy part in all this, because today, there was this. After 7 months to get there, what NASA called the 7 minutes of terror. That's when Perseverance began its final, fiery descent onto the planet, traveling at 12,000 miles an hour, breaking through that thin Martian atmosphere and deploying the biggest supersonic parachutes ever made. Now, using new imaging technology, it guided itself towards the Martian landing zone, where a sky crane gently lowered the rover onto the ground of the red planet. Truly unbelievable stuff. Now, we know that Perseverance really stuck the landing, right? That was the big news this afternoon. So now we want to take a closer look at really the goal, now that it's reached its final destination. It's an area specifically called the Jezero Crater. Right there, you see it. Kind of looks like an old lake. It's about the size of Lake Tahoe, 3 to 4 billion years old. This was the specific place they want to explore, because buried somewhere in that delta, potentially, may be the best evidence of ancient microbial life.
So this is a great mission because it really builds upon many decades now of Mars exploration, where we have learned more and more about the history of the red planet that tells us that it is a place that we think was habitable in the past. It had the ingredients for life. And Perseverance is all about asking the question of whether those ingredients actually came together and life got started on Mars. And so exciting to see whether we might really finally be able to answer the question of was there life on Mars?
So was past tense, not like we're going to see a little green alien pop up into one of those photos today. Percy's there to try to figure all that out, if it was there millions of years ago. It involves a lot of tech too. It is loaded with microphones, so humans could actually listen to the Martian surface at some point down the line. It's got cameras. We already saw some of the photos, imagers, radars, spectrometers, and even some drills. Yeah, Perseverance going to be busy up there. They'll be drilling into the Martian rocks and the soil on the surface of the planet, collecting samples in dozens of those tubes. And in fact, those tubes will be brought back to Earth in about a decade from now.
And this is just so incredibly important to bring these samples back to Earth, because We can then use the full breadth of our capabilities in the laboratories we have here on Earth, using all of the scientific expertise from around the world to address this incredibly hard question about whether or not those fossils of the microbes actually have been preserved in the deposits of Jezero crater.
You think moon rocks are cool? How about a Mars rock? One of the coolest features of this mission for me personally, I think this is awesome. It is a 4-pound mini helicopter. Check out that guy right there. Essentially a drone. It's named Ingenuity. It's going to take off and kind of skim the Martian surface, photographing the terrain there. But flying in that atmosphere that's only 1% of Earth's atmosphere with very little to no oxygen there, engineers really had to develop a special twin rotor system that could provide the necessary lift to get it airborne on the planet. So listen, if we're going to have people on Mars someday, they're going to need something to breathe their oxygen, preferably, right? And Mars, well, that comes way up short for the planet. Almost no oxygen in their atmosphere. So the folks at MIT have come up with a way to turn all that CO2 in the Martian atmosphere into breathable oxygen. So what you're looking at here, this little golden box there, that should do the trick. Here it is being lowered into the belly of the rover. That device is designed to pull oxygen literally out of thin air. Just think of how trees convert CO2 into oxygen, kind of the same idea here. So this project specifically is called MOXIE. MOXIE like the drink, the old drink from way back in the day. It's loaded with carbonized bubbles. The drink was, by the way, invented in Massachusetts way back in the 1800s. MOXIE also means determination, so in this case, both of them work. And instead of taking in MOXIE the drink, MIT's machine will actually take in the carbon dioxide from the atmosphere on Mars, and just like a tree would on Earth, it's going to turn it into oxygen. We spoke with Michael Hecht of MIT, who's part of the MOXIE project, about the importance of this endeavor.
The first humans that set foot on Mars will be there between either 30 days, but more likely for a year and a half, okay? We need oxygen to live on Mars all that time, and more importantly, we need even more oxygen to get home, because rockets breathe just like people breathe, except they breathe a whole heck of a lot more. Once we've been successful with MOXIE on Mars, the next step is to scale it up into something that can produce the amounts of oxygen we will really need, which is hundreds of times more than our little, technology demonstrator on the rover can produce. And to do that, we'll need a large power plant. We'll need all kinds of infrastructure that is just being developed, even now.
So listen, getting there was hard. Living there is going to be a lot harder. Plenty of people, you ask, probably have no interest in going to Mars, myself included, let alone living out their days there. So what will all that Martian motivation be coming from? Well, maybe it'll come from kids who get to see this round of space exploration kind of in real time, online, social media, it's everywhere today. Mirka Zapletel, the director of education at the McAuliffe Shepherd Discovery Center in New Hampshire, says kids often tell her when they see milestones like this that they too want to be the first at doing something like maybe living on Mars.
I do ask, every student group that I work with, how many of them would go to Mars or the moon if they had the chance. And not everyone says yes, but those that do are really interested in that exploration, see something new, look back at Earth from a different place. And I think they're able to visualize that in part because of what they see coming in from these craft.
So the Perseverance rover landing on the red planet, just the latest NASA exploration of Mars. This has been really years and years in the making. So let's take a look at some of the historic missions to the red planet.
NASA's first foray to the red planet was more than 50 years ago. It was July 1965. Mariner 4 became the first space probe to do a flyby of Mars, sending back close-up photographs of impact craters there. It also studied the solar wind. 6 years later, November 1971, Mariner 9 became the first space probe to orbit another planet when it reached Mars, sending back detailed pictures of the surface as well as the two moons there. The Soviets actually won the race to the surface of Mars later that same year, with one probe landing, but then failing about 20 seconds later. NASA first landed on Mars in 1976 with Viking 1 and Viking 2, both of which sent back the first color photos of the red planet. Fast forward to 1997, NASA's Mars Pathfinder landed on the planet carrying a robotic exploration vehicle, Sojourner. It was the first successful use of rovers on the red planet. Sojourner was supposed to last a week, but it actually explored Mars for 83 days. The last decade and a half have seen the most success on Mars' surface. The exploration rovers Spirit and Opportunity landed back in January of 2004, and both exceeded expectations. In fact, NASA was in contact with Opportunity until 2018, more than 14 years later. Then in 2008, NASA confirmed the presence of water ice on Mars after the Phoenix probe landed at the North Polar region of that planet. And finally, in 2012, Curiosity rover hit Mars' surface. It has sent back more than 700,000 raw images in its 8 years on the planet, and it's traveled about 14 miles on Mars.
So it's clear we can get robots there. What about people? Well, that could happen in our lifetime. Elon Musk's company, SpaceX, wants to send humans to Mars this decade. We'll see if that happens. NASA said it is cautiously optimistic that by the 2030s, more than a decade from now, we could be seeing round-trip missions to Mars with humans. But if a lifeless, dust-covered rock isn't your thing, maybe you'll get excited for what NASA else has in store for us. NASA this decade wants to launch a craft to go to Jupiter's moon of Europa. Europa, though, is covered in ice. I don't know if I'd want to go there either. Researchers think that maybe, just like Earth, there's some big ocean underneath all that ice filled with potential life. NASA has been developing ways to get there, but launching something there isn't in NASA's budget right now. Also should be noted, it's more than twice as far away as Mars. It would take quite some time to get there. This next project is in the budget, though, the James Webb Telescope. This is the next generation Hubble telescope, our eye really into the universe. This is going to launch in October of this year. This thing is like a time machine. NASA will be able to peer deep into space, far deeper than we have ever seen before, to look at some of the oldest objects in the known universe. And NASA still plans to return to the moon and build some operations there. A moon base will make other space missions a little bit more feasible, since launching from and returning to Earth can burn an awful lot of energy. The goal was to get up there to the moon again by 2024, but NASA apparently looking at that timeline again and maybe delaying all of that. Listen, looking into the future is one thing, and it's really cool to see all the things we have potentially down the line, but we don't want to overlook what happened this afternoon. At the end of the day, what NASA accomplished today is nothing short of amazing.
Just getting this rover to the launch pad, and it launched last summer. So in the middle of the pandemic, imagine trying to launch a rover to Mars in the midst of a global pandemic. That's what NASA was able to do here. So I think the name Perseverance, I can't imagine a more appropriate name for all of us at this time. I think there's a little piece of every one of us that's out there exploring when most of us are kind of stuck at home.
Also nice to see all the attention on social media going to Perseverance. This happened with Curiosity as well. Everyone kind of getting interested in science and exploration and the universe once again. And you'll be sure, especially with all the data they're able to send back as quickly, NASA's doing a really good job of keeping people engaged in all this. I, for one, absolutely geeked out by all this stuff.